Well, this is Jay Hughes with Press On, and it is a huge honor to have as my guest today Jay Crowell. And Jay is the Senior Vice President and Regional Manager of Production for Cornerstone Home Lending in Seattle, Washington. And Jay and I have we've been friends for a long time. He's been in the mortgage business for a total of 11 years. As you'll see, he executes at a very high level. He and his team rank in the top 1% in mortgage volume in the nation. And not only is Jay managing a very successful team, but he also produces personally at a high level. He closed in excess of $59 million in personal production in 2013. His branch did $292 million. His region exceeded $430 million. And in addition to that, Jay really has a passion for helping others. He was asked to present and did so at the Todd Duncan Sales Mastery in 2011. He gives his time in other ways as well, including coaching basketball. And it's really his willingness to share his insights with others in the mortgage industry. That's why he's on the call with me today. Jay is married to his wife, Jennifer. They've got two kids, Kingston, who is 3, Giovanna, who is 9 months old. And again, Jay, my friend, it's so good to have you on the call. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Jay. Really appreciate the opportunity to share and give back to the industry and give back to others.
Yeah, you bet. Well, we're going to spend some good time together, and I know the folks that are going to be listening to this call, they're really going to want to hear from you on your best practices, what you do well, some of the habits that you incorporate into your daily life, both business and personal. And I know that's what people want to hear, what you're doing so well to be successful. But also, you and I both know that everyone deals with challenges and problems and struggles, both in work and in life. And I know you do as well. And so, I don't want people to hear you and think, well, yeah, this is Jay. He's producing a top 1% producer in the country. This is easy for him. I know it's hard, and it's hard work for you. You've overcome struggles. So I thought maybe just to open up, maybe you could share an obstacle that you've faced over the last year and how you were able to kind of overcome that challenge.
Okay. So I think just kind of like an overarching thought, because I had, when that first came up, I thought of a couple things that were really personal. I thought of a couple that were, professional. And they, both of them were kind of like really kind of personal items.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to be sensitive because of the industry and just kind of my own personal family, situation. But I think the big lesson of that overarching, and I have a couple kind of lower level items. But the big thing is I don't ever want to play the victim, and I don't want to have to give up my power in a situation. And so if I have, I had a loan officer resign this year, and we'd worked together for 6 years. That was really a difficult situation. It kind of just happened in unfortunate circumstances, Worked together for a long time, quit my first day on vacation. I was taking my parents for their 50th anniversary. Just kind of a bummer situation. And he's a great guy, and we've reconciled that situation, but just kind of a bummer, situation, and how you kind of go through it. And I think in these situations in life, what you have to do is you need to go back through and go, I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to take ownership for what I can control. And it really, what I've learned to do is just to walk back through and go, okay, if I could do it again, what would I learn from it? What are the lessons from it? What are the key takeaways? And what can I use from that on a move forward basis so that I have that as my gain perspective, and that I don't look at it as like a regret or a disappointment or a pain, but you use it as a life lesson that makes you stronger. And if I were to go get my MBA, or if I'm going to go get an education, it's going to cost you money. And so that's an experience that costs time, energy. There's a perspective, but I just look at it as, hey, that's education that you pick up throughout the seasoning, and it's a painful education, but there's a cost to it, and that cost is really valuable if you take it and learn from it. And one of the things that in that time when I go through those situations, I try and pray about it, and I just go, okay, God, teach me what I need to learn from this situation so I don't need to learn this again. Because what I've found is, if there's a message that I didn't learn, it gets brought back to me in a harder lesson. And so, I didn't learn it in the 3rd grade. Well, now I got to learn it in junior high, and it's a lot harder lesson in junior high. And if I didn't learn it in junior high, then I get it brought to me in high school. And if I didn't learn it in high school, then it keeps coming back, and it's the same underlying message. And so that's kind of one of those practices that I really try and learn from. From a practical standpoint, one obstacle that we had is, our model is we're heavy purchase focused. Cornerstone, like 2012, we were almost 70% purchase business. So we're really, when the industry is like 70% refi, we're really purchase centric, and we're really, focused on doing a great job. Well, we've maintained a 40-hour underwriting turn time during these last 4.5 years that I've been there, really consistently with that. And so one little obstacle we had is we do a customer service survey with our clients and with our agents at, midway through a transaction and at the end, and we were seeing some of our scores not come back as strong on the second half of a transaction, and we're like, why? And we dig into that a little bit, and people are like, well, we're not getting enough communication. Well, we have kind of a system within our team that at the 6 key milestones of a transaction, updates go out automatically. They look really nice. They come from our email personally, but it's nothing that I have to drive or anybody in my team, any of my sales, people have to drive. It just comes up from, the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, well, gosh, this was a smooth closing. We had docs early. They got updated all these times, and we're like, so, we started picking up the phone and going, can you help me understand this a little bit more? Because not that we want to be defensive, but we're kind of confused by this. And they're saying, well, we didn't hear from you for a couple weeks. And partly, if you've got a smooth system and you're able to close deals in 8 days if you need to, or in 2 weeks is pretty easy for us, then, you get these files and they're all done and they're just sitting there and waiting to send docs, in a range. It's fine. They don't hear from us. So no news, what we heard was no news is bad news. And so instead of going, you're stupid, what are you talking about, we rock, we sincerely apologize, said, hey, we're going to implement some change on that. And so what we did is someone on my team, either myself or somebody else, typically it's a team member, calls every Thursday. They call all parties of the transaction, listing agent, buyer's agent, and just gives them a 30-second update of what's going on in the transaction every Thursday. And we've just been getting massive rave reviews since we implemented that. Because one of our goals is anytime I get an inbound call for status, our team failed. All information should be pushed that once a file's in process and locked and loaded and going, any inbound call, unless you get, those onesie-twosie agents that don't do any business,
right?
It's like their little pet and they call you every day. We're going to be really pushing that information so that they can go out and do their business, and that's part of our value proposition.
Yeah, so you're pushing proactive.
So that was a tweak. Adding the Thursday calls has been really big for our business, and that was a way that we overcame an obstacle.
Love it. It's such a great story to kind of back up, as opposed to kind of falling into that victim thinking. You listened to your customer, you analyzed, you didn't play the victim, and you implemented, you took action, and that's just really a hallmark of someone who's got a high level of awareness. I mean, you were teachable and made the change, and obviously that had a huge impact on your customer service you're delivering, your ratings that are coming back. So yeah, tremendous story. Thank you. That was a great way to start. I'd love to hear, just maybe take a couple minutes. You were alluding to this a little bit about your team and your system. Maybe give us a kind of a big picture view of your business. Like, where are you? What are your roles and responsibilities? The roles and responsibilities of your teammates, and I'm kind of driving towards where are you personally spending your time, and what activities are delegated to your teammates?
Mm-hmm. So I spend about 50-50 of my time, 50% on managing other LOs or other managers, or in the leadership role, and then the rest of the time is kind of in the production role. And that's mostly in kind of the networking, meeting with realtors, meeting with referral partners, and then doing client consultations. So kind of once a file is at they're ready to app, or they've locked their loan, I'm really out of the out of the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And typically I like, the more of the interpersonal. That's kind of where my strengths are, and some of the details just aren't. I'm pretty low on the S and the C,
Mm-hmm.
especially the C, in that DISC profile, and real high on the D and high on the I, and so that's where we try and focus my strengths in that area. So from a leadership standpoint, it's loan officer one-on-ones, sales meetings, prospecting meetings, and kind of help cultivating that. Then there's, you obviously have, damage control and, helping deals get done from the rest of, from my other loan officers. From a team standpoint, my kind of key actions are the high-end client. So, if it's a jumbo buyer, that's kind of my focus. Everybody's going to drive those deals to me on the team. Also going to, lots of agent meetings, financial planners, CPAs, referral partners that are non-agent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of my wheelhouse of getting those meetings set up and doing that. And I guess with a management piece, it's also, networking, meeting other loan officers and other leaders in the area. From a role standpoint on the team, I will do a consultation. Our system kind of does a lot of the pre-approval process for us, and then we back that up with documentation. I have a team member on my team that does like kind of the pre-scrub, and then gives me DTI numbers and gives me ranges of where they qualify ahead of our appointment. So kind of approach it a little bit like the doctor. So I'm coming in, all the charts and all the stats are done. I work with Mortgage Coach, the program. We put together an edge report. We want every client to see one of those because it's part of our value proposition of we want to deliver a mortgage plan. We feel like that's a really tangible way that we can deliver that quickly. So typically we want our clients to do a pre-qualification form. We do some back-end stuff. We typically ask for all documentation up front and early so that we're ready to roll. Our environment is really competitive right now. There's a lot of low inventory. And so we try and get the clients pre-set up so we can come in and give a letter of commitment to lend, not a pre-qual, say, hey, we can close this in 12 days, and it's really helping our buyers, get their offer accepted in a multiple offer situation. So I'm doing a consultation, and once they're ready to lock in, then we're done. And then that goes over to my team, and I have a administrative assistant, we have a transaction coordinator, and then I have I've heard my production partner, Jacob, who also acts as an originator, as well as, kind of handholds people once they're in that point of lock. So
right.
A lot of times on the refis and the database, agent relationships, they know that they can talk to me or they can talk to Jacob. So if I'm in an all-day leadership event, or if I'm at, a conference, or if I'm at a, mastermind event, I'm in a position where I can, be, off the grid, and I don't need to look at every 1003. I don't need to look at, every HUD that the machine runs well without me there. Kind of some key things that happen is every week we do 2 really, pretty intense team meetings. We talk about every transaction during the process. We talk about every transaction after it closes. We talk about our wins and our losses. And so there's a lot of coaching that goes on with the team to get that where we want it to go.
Mm.
Recently, we just added a new team member that's going to kind of step into that production partner role as well. So I'll have 2. He played football at University of Washington. Great guy. Just graduated last fall. So he's young and really green, but learning the business. He's going to start teaching first-time homebuyer class. We want to be that. That's kind of a segment we wanted to add.
Mm-hmm.
But I have 2 kids. Nights and weekends don't work for me. Jacob's got 2 kids. That doesn't really work for him. So wanted to really kind of bring that in to a part of our team setup.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yet, one follow-up question on that. I mean, what you just described there. I mean, you've got a lot going on. Not only are you, you said you're spending 50% of your time originating, 50% kind of in that leadership, managing, coaching role, and those are broad categories. I know within that you've got a lot of responsibilities, a lot of people competing for your attention, a lot of so that I know you're busy, right? You're super busy. My question for you is, What's been the biggest like temptation that pulls you out of that kind of being in the zone where you need to be? Like what's the biggest time suck or something that just kind of has the potential to derail you, and maybe it's something you overcome, and like how did you do that? How are you able to manage your time well and stay on task?
I'd say the one that probably pulls me the most is the hiccups on files that aren't my own.
Okay.
So my team's rock solid. I got a great processor. We got I got my executive assistant's been with me almost about 3 years. My production partner has been with me 7 years. So, and we really are intentional about our growth and how we work together, and they really understand how to attack a file from a not a victim standpoint, own the situation, own the problem, go at it and solve the deal, and then afterwards, let's go look at it. So I'd say my time suck, or the area that will derail me, is I get a call as I'm getting ready to go do something, or I've blocked out green time on a project, or I want to do some one-timing, or I want to do high-level thought on something that we're trying to build towards, or do some vision work, and then I get a call from a loan officer that's a good loan officer, but didn't bake up the file all the way, and they're like, hey, I got to close on Friday, and I I just got it done Friday today. It's Wednesday.
Right.
And we were getting a lot better on that. Those are some things we really worked through, and we do have a really good group and a great culture of loan officers. But those things happen, and so if there's a hiccup on a deal where I get pulled into the red, and there's kind of those 4 quadrants, right?
Yep.
You have the urgent, important, and so those things are important. So getting pulled into those urgent, important activities, I do a pretty good job of avoiding the the non-important urgent. My assistant's able to really kind of pull that and deal with it and solve those on her own, and then the urgent, non-important, that stuff happens from time to time, but the important, non-urgent, that's where I want to spend more of my time, and I'm really trying to push myself, and some of the people that I get mentorship and coaching from have really said there needs to be more time in that, especially as we kind of go into this new cycle, and we have a new wave of what kind of, and the end of the refis is really here, and
right.
We're probably starting a new 10-year cycle of what what business will look like, and so I think that's an important part of the day and part of the week and part of the month that needs to be implemented, and where I get sucked from that, or why that doesn't get I don't get those boxes checked and feel like I didn't have productivity on for on timing, is getting pulled into those deals that have to close tomorrow or have to close on Friday.
Right. Well, I mean, to me, it sounds like you definitely have you've got a heightened awareness of that, and if you're moving towards trying to spend as much time as you can on on non-urgent but important, those are the money-making activities. That's you mentioned it. That's dreaming. That's vision. That's strategic planning. And those are tough disciplines, but I can tell you're working to block out time to make that happen. So yeah, that's tremendous advice for those of us that are listening. Another question I've got for you, you were alluding to as well, you manage a team of loan officers, and these, it sounds like a phenomenal group. But I know you've been in the business a long time. You have both probably had loan officers that have worked for you that didn't work out. You've probably recruited loan officers where you've watched, and maybe you didn't hire them and it didn't work out for them. You've probably rubbed shoulders with others in the industry that just they struggle. And I'm just wondering if you have a thought on like a common denominator of when you see a loan officer that is kind of that in that volume range. Maybe they're closing 2 loans, 3 loans, 4 loans a month, and they just can't seem to get out of their own way. Have you seen maybe a 1 or 2 things that you think tend to hold people back from kind of moving to the next level?
Mm-hmm. I think there's a couple things, and one of them that just came to mind as you were asking me this question is, I think a lot of loan officers do a poor assessment of making sure they do a good model match and they're at an organization that is a good fit for them and their skill sets and what their business looks like. And so, you may have a loan officer that gets really excited about, 150 basis points, but it's not a platform that works for them. And, you have a loan officer that, understands that, their referral network isn't what it is, but they know how to put together a deal well, and can kind of fight within the, through a big bank environment, but they can still do a lot of volume and be successful at a bank, where being at a bank would be pretty hard for me just because of my sap entrepreneurial spirit. But nothing wrong with banks. I mean, just finding what is a good fit for you and where you get energy and where you find that. So I think finding the good model match and making sure, especially in this environment, is looking past the comp plan, because I think loan officers get caught up on that. And really, 10 deals at 60 bips is better than 2 deals at, 150.
Right.
And not that those are two extremes, and Cornerstone's not in there, but I think that's that is a big thought, is what does your business look like? Do you need a platform that provides, referrals, such as, a JV, or working with a builder, or working in a real estate office? And, some people wouldn't do very well in a glass bowl environment, or a fish bowl environment. So I think that's a quick thought.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Kind of a deeper dive of that is, I personally think it's kind of a combination of some different things. One of them is perseverance, like having to, work through a challenge, work through a cycle. Right now, I think there's some loan officers that are going to be in that onesie, twosie range, even though, a year ago they were doing 10 units a month.
Right.
And saying, am I going to be able to persevere through this tough season and have that bifocal vision, like, hey, 2015 is going to be awesome because I'm going to lay a great foundation this year. And they have their other eye down going, hey, I need to lay my foundation. I need to make lots of contacts. I need to do the work. And they got, one eye down and one eye, in the future. But that's going to take, you got to drink your, your medicine of perseverance, and I'm going to push through and never quit. And so that's one ingredient. Do they have that or not? Long-term vision is tied into that. Another one is confidence. Do they really, really believe in themselves? Can they sell themselves, apart from somebody else? Which leads to kind of where I think some loan officers don't know how to ask for the business. They know how to network, they know how to get out in front of people, but they don't know how to close. It's kind of like, they want to date somebody, but they just come across as wanting to be their friend.
Well, give me your take on that. Can you give us a minute or two, maybe? I'm not looking for your script, but just philosophically, how do you close? How does a great loan officer have that confidence to close and not just, I want to be your friend?
I mean, I think you have to figure out that topic, that point. And I'll tell you, it's something that I work on at the same time, because I have some relationships where I sit down with them, we have a great meeting, it's awesome, we connect, business starts coming in right away. I mean, I'm pretty direct that I'm meeting, I want to add value to your business, I want to earn your business. What does that look like? But I'll be honest with you, I got a meeting next Friday that I'm really excited about, because this is an agent I've been we've done a couple deals together, but I still haven't gotten all the business that I wanted. And then we looked at the stats, through MLS this year, and she closed a lot of transactions this last year. And I'm thinking, and I'm going to go in, and my team's going, dude, we got to get her. You need to get this business, So that's where I get, iron sharpens iron. Is I'm pushing my team on, I don't want to ever get an inbound call on status. I want to make sure every deal's got, doxed out 4 or 5 days in advance. These are the things that I work on, and they're pushing me, going, why are we not getting her business? She needs to be sitting with, so I'm gearing up for that, that meeting, and I'll tell you, that's a meeting that I'm excited about, and I got to, I'm thinking about through this scripting because I feel like I've laid it out there pretty clear, but I need to kind of go back and say, what am I doing that's caused me to not get more business, and what can I do to earn that? And I think you have to kind of figure out that balance of bringing your value proposition to them and make that compelling to the agent. And, so why should they work with you? What can you take off their plate?
That's it.
And so I think it really comes down to, I think you also have to ask a lot, and ask in different ways. And it's not just, let's go, here's some donuts, and not, let's just have coffee and let's not have lunch. And I think that, part of it is I think with this meeting that's important, like the one that I'm kind of gearing up to, just kind of be, vulnerable on this call is, I need to kind of, it can't just be, how's your kids and how is business and da-da-da-da-da. I have to ask some good questions, and I think that is kind of a big power shift to that, is kind of setting yourself up for a good meeting. And I think, I've done a lot of thought on that, especially from a recruiting standpoint, is how do I move past just the, staying in touch, but really, making sure that it's really clear, because the good people that you want to come join your company, it takes a long time, and it usually needs to be a point where they're in pain. And everyone has had a lot of success over the last couple of years, so we've been fat, dumb, and happy, and now there's some pain, so now there's some opportunities. But how do you do that in a compelling way? And so I think you have to find that balance of understanding their needs, making a connection, but then, clearly, saying, hey, how do I capture the business?
Yeah. Well, I think you're dead on the money. This is a concept I talk about, coach through and train through all the time. I mean, having a compelling value proposition, asking, really, really great questions that are thought through up front to put the focus on the other person, and then you have that opportunity to give. And when you ask and you show that you are different than somebody else, and you have that confidence that you talked about, a belief that what I have to give and share with this other person, whether it's a new recruit or a new agent, is really truly going to be valuable for them, and that is that's shared in a way that is compelling. And shows them that you're genuine, you're real, you're authentic. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. People love that. I mean, they feel that personal connection, and that gets people excited about doing business with you, whether that's working for you or sending you business. So I think you're right on. Let's go kind of explore that a little deeper. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was if you were going to go meet with a new real estate agent, because I know we're going to have folks listening to this, and they're going to want to hear that. Like if you had a new agent, you didn't know them, it sounds like this agent you're meeting with in a week or two that you've done a little bit of business with them. Maybe this is an agent you've never met before, but you know them, you know their reputation, and you'd like to approach them. If you were in that scenario, like how would you initiate? Like, how would you do the initial reach out? Would you look for a mutual connection? I'll stop there and just kind of let you talk. Like, how would you initiate that initial the initial kind of appointment engagement with somebody that you really want to connect with?
Yeah, and I think obviously, there's kind of with this situation, kind of like we just talked about, is every individual is going to be a little bit different, and you really kind of have to try and figure out how you want to do that. So like my style may be different than, another top producing loan officer, and I listen to different tapes, and I will listen to somebody's, and I'm like, that's really cool, and I think it's really good, and someone's like, are you going to do that? I'm like, no, because it doesn't feel authentic to me, and I think you have to be true. You have to find that way of asking for the business and being direct, or asking for referrals, and do it so it feels natural, because if it doesn't feel authentic to you, then it's going to sound forced, or it's going to sound canned, or it's going to sound ingenuine, and then people are going to be turned off by it, because people, can smell that. They can, just like a dog can smell fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
People feel when you're not being sincere. So I think that, one of the approaches that we've worked on, and we've done some things, some that have worked and some that haven't worked, and some have worked with others versus not, So typically it is more of a challenge when it's really cold to kind of get that agent meeting. And I think that one of our big things where we really try and excel is, and really that Thursday call is a big component to getting new relationships. So we really work the listing side hard, or if it's a new agent, new buyer, we kind of have, scripting or talking points is kind of where I like to be at, because I don't really like scripts because they sometimes sound canned.
Right.
But our talking point is basically, an introduction, kind of setting the expectation of our communication plan and having a smooth on-time close, and that if we do that, would we be able to earn the right to be able to have a cup of coffee with you post-closing. And typically, you're going to get the yes up front, because, who's not going to be excited about, really clear communication consistently. We talk about the 6 milestones and, the weekly voice updates, and then a smooth on-time close, and we basically put that ask out there. If we do that, can we have that coffee? And then, midway through that process, we're also reminding them that they made that commitment and that we're on track. And we also ask them how we're doing, verbally and with a voice, so they have a choice to either do it verbally or with electronic, like a 3-question survey. So it's really simple and painless. And then we do that ask. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, you got that up front yes. It goes through the process. They're like, wow, this is great. You get done to closing, and they go, man, that was amazing. I want to start sending business with you. And then you say, well, let's meet so we can really understand each other's business model, to go deeper. That's going to obviously drive the relationship. And they're like, yeah, that sounds good. And, I don't know a breed of people that are harder to pin down than real estate agents, and that, they're going to, and I'm sure, loan officers are probably in a similar category, but, you try and set up the appointment, they say, yeah, they're going to reschedule. One of my disciplines is to set up, I want to meet at least 3 agents face-to-face, not at like a broker's open, it's actual scheduled meeting them face-to-face. And I intentionally, purposely, my goal is to schedule at least 5, because I know I'm going to get at least 40% are going to cancel. And some weeks I'll have 5 scheduled and all 5 will cancel. So, and part of it is they have a buyer, but it's just a flaky breed of individuals for the most part. And then you got the really high producers that just crank it, but they're so busy they don't really feel like the need to meet. But so that's kind of one angle of the approach, is when you get a transaction, you just got to kill it, and you got to do an awesome job, and you got to kind of set that up. But typically, at some point, we will meet with them, and through that demonstration of consistency and perseverance, they're like, you really have your stuff together. And I think, I met with an agent that I've been trying to pursue for a long time, and we met at the end of last year. Since has sent me like 3 referrals. Had never done a transaction. We met at an open house party, got a nice introduction from the agent that had invited me. Had been trying to meet with him all fall. Finally met with him in December, and basically he said, I can tell that you have your stuff together and you're totally dialed in because you consistently followed up with me. And you know what? I get a good belief based off of, obviously you've been recommended by other people, but based off of just your approach to just getting a meeting with me, I know you're going to do a good job on doing loans for me, so let's meet. And so I think I really think that there is this belief system from agents that they're not going to say, hey, let's go have a meeting the first time you reach out, or the second time, or even like the third time. They're going to make you earn it, because I think they are able to separate the pretenders versus the people that really, are serious about it.
So Jay, you're saying this is great. So you're saying you don't give up,
no.
Which yeah, I mean,
our belief is we're going to call if I get a lead for a buyer, for a refi, or an agent, or a financial planner. We're going to keep calling them. Now it may go, it may be I'm going to call every day for a period of time, and then it may go to every other day, and then once a week, or 2 times, maybe Tuesday, Friday. Then it may go to weekly, then maybe every other week, and then it'll drop to the most will go out as once a month. But we're going to drip that until we get a yes or a no.
Amen.
Now, I will tell you, my wife makes fun of me because she goes, I don't know if people do business with you because they really like you or they're just so sick and tired of you calling that they just want to say yes so that you'll stop calling them.
Amen, man.
You know what?
Either way.
It pays the bill.
That's right. It pays the bills. Either way. No, I love it. And thank you so much. I hope those of you that are listening don't be too quick to jump over this. This is a principle that comes up over and over again. Jay, I'm sure as you talk to loan officers, well, I think loan officers, if we're going to categorize groups, I think loan officers as a group give up too easy. It's I tried. They said they would meet with me. They said that they would have that coffee with me, and they didn't. Well, and somehow maybe that's a reflection on me, and I don't want to. I'm not going to, or maybe there's too much pride there, and so I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna go pursue that. If they don't want me, they need to come to me. So I love what you're saying here and illustrating that point that you talked about earlier. Just perseverance, like pressing through that, and getting.
And I think if you really feel convicted, that what you're offering is positive, then you'll just keep reaching out. Because if I know, I feel like what we're offering has great substance and is of great value, I believe in what we're offering, and so
Well, you're still offering to serve, yeah.
We're offering to serve, and so I think, and I'll tell you, a lot of clients they come back and go, you know what, I really appreciate you just staying on top of this, and I didn't feel like you were pestering me at all, and I'll usually laugh that off, like, yeah, I know, you probably feel like I'm hounding you, and throw in a little chuckle, and they kind of, they're like, no, like literally, like this wouldn't have got done if you wouldn't have been consistent. We really needed this. Thank you. And I know what it's like in my own personal life that I got 2 kids, I got a spouse, I have commitments outside of work, and I'm cranking at work all the time. But there are those little things in my own personal life that sometimes I miss, and it's nice to have somebody that can kind of help you get it done. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I think this, again, huge principle here. I know there are loan officers almost to a man and a woman right now are out. They're beating the streets. They're trying to make contacts. They're trying to set up coffees. They're like you said, trying to build that foundation for a real estate purchase business because maybe they're doing a lot of refis last year. And so showing up is important. You got to make those calls. You've got to be proactive. You've got to reach out. But do not miss what Jay is talking about right here. It's the follow-up, because that's what 98% of people simply do not do. They don't follow up well. And boy, I'm really glad you brought that up. Excellent point.
I will say one little thing that we have done, and we try and do it on a quarterly basis, and sometimes we'll move it to every 6 months, but we will do a wave of cold introductions to agents that has a 3-week campaign, and it's a book and a FedEx, with a nice letter saying we're going to call on this date. We follow up with another call, then we do an email, and then we do another call. And typically we'll get, if we send out, and Seattle's a pretty big city, right? It's not massive. It's not LA or New York or Chicago, but it's a decent, market size-wise, and so you're not seeing all the same agents, but we target that out to agents that do enough volume or are doing heavy marketing, so we see the name. The nice thing that what happens is what we've come to see over a couple of years of doing it is we didn't get as many face-to-faces, but what we found is now, a few years later, our client makes an offer on their listing, and then we call and make an introduction.
Right.
We say, hey, you know what? I got your book. We know we sent them a book, but they're actually saying, oh, yeah, we work together, or they know us. They feel comfortable with us because they've heard from me and my team, on a really intentional blitz campaign. And so, and then when we get the follow-up meeting, they're like, let's meet after we do a nice close. So it kind of sets it up, and so you have to kind of think about your marketing as being, I think so oftentimes we go and we plant a seed and we water it, and then we go back the next day and we're like, where's the tree?
Right.
And
where's my fruit?
Where's my fruit? Wait a minute, you planted it yesterday. So sometimes don't get caught in, and I think that's why having that 10-year perspective of, okay, I'm building my business, and I think if you walk into it and saying, hey, this year, may not be what you hope it to be, but I want 2016 to be X amount of income. I think that that's really likely that you can do that if you work your tail off over the next, year and a half, 2 years.
Mm. Well said. I can't add any more to that. Very well said. Hey, I've taken up a bunch of your time, and I really appreciate it. Before we close, is there anything else you want to share that maybe I haven't missed, we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, I think the last one is really just focus on the business planning, but keep it really, really simple. Like right now, I have 3 activities that are my kind of core actions, and that's all that I'm focused on doing. And it's really centered around having 3 meaningful connections with people that don't work at my company that are loan officers. It's setting up 3 meetings with non-agent referral partners for the upcoming week, and setting up 5 agent meetings. And so that's kind of my that's my focus. And if I've done that, I feel good about my week, regardless of my app count, regardless of what happens, and really just focusing on the things that I can control. Because I can't control whether I get an application. I can't control somebody's offer gets accepted. I can't control whether somebody says yes to using a loan with me. I can't control a lot of things, but I can control the activities that set that up. And so from a basketball perspective or if I want to get in better shape, I focus on my calorie intake, my workouts, when I'm working out, how I'm working out, and what I'm doing, right? I'm not going to say, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds, because that's a cool goal. Or let's say I want to close X amount of volume or have X amount of income in a year. All those things are really good goals, and I'm not saying you shouldn't write those down, because I believe you should, and you should see them. But the most important goal is the activities that get you there. And so what are those key 3 to 4 green activities that make you money, and focus on those disciplines, with great consistency?
Just out of curiosity, how long did it take you to come up with those three disciplines for you?
Those evolve all the time. And so that was just a twist that I did at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Or really, and they've been different. I've had seasons where it's 10 database calls every day of the week, 15 database calls Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've had all these different variations of what those look like. I'm just trying to narrow them down to be really specific right now about it's setting up the meeting, because that requires, I've had agent calls. There's all kinds of disciplines that I've had in 11 years. But I have been pretty discipline focused from the mentorship that I got from my dad, who's not in our industry but has been successful in business and as a basketball coach, and from my years of being in the weight room and being in the gym, and from an academic standpoint, it's all kind of translates the same. And so looking at this as being a numbers game, if I can meet with enough people and knowing that if I can get 1 referral from X number of meetings, or if I can get 2 referrals over the course of the year from X number of meetings, and I get a conversion rate of 40% of those referrals, does that get me to my end game?
Yep.
Just keeping it really, really simple on your planning.
Yeah.
You should be able to put your business plan, in my opinion, loan officers, on a yellow sticky pad.
Yeah.
Like it should be that concise. Now, sure, you want to have some elaborate stuff and do that, but the core meat and potatoes, what's going to make you money, that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think you know this. I teach the same principle. I've got a training that I've gone through for a couple years that teaches loan officers and managers how to put a business plan together on a page. If you can't bring it down to a page or a yellow sticky note, it's collecting dust in your drawer. And so I love what you're illustrating there. And my guess would be it probably didn't take you more than, I'm not, like you said, these disciplines evolved, but it doesn't take a tremendous amount of time to do that. But these are huge. These are huge. Once you put them into place.
Practically, how long did it take me to come up with those 3?
Yeah.
I did it with a couple friends that are peers, not even within our organization, over lunch. We just were talking about what we're going to get done.
Yeah, and that's the point. Like once those are in place, I mean, I loved the kind of the analogy of being in the weight room or maybe you have a weight loss goal. I mean, it's one thing to say, well, I want to weigh 180 and I'm at 200. I mean, you got to write that down. That's important. But like, what are the steps you got to take to get there? And with a focus on that, it's not just a matter of saying no to cake and then all of a sudden I'm going to weigh 180 tomorrow. Like it takes structure, it takes discipline, and a few little habits over time make a huge, huge impact. And that's kind of to your point, one eye on the business today, while I've got one eye on the future. And these little disciplines like that are what fuels that. So the challenge would be to the audience, those that are listening, what are 2 or 3 disciplines that you've got to focus on in order to carry you towards your goals long term, into 2014 and into 2015. And the 3 that Jay mentioned would be a great place to start. Well, Jay, I want to thank you again very much, brother.
I'm sorry to say one more thing.
Oh, yeah, please.
Follow-up to that is the nice thing about that is when you get really focused on 2 to 3 or even 4 disciplines, over time, some of those become habits. And so like the Thursday call, when we first started that, and it was something we started even like back in 2012, and we were trying it and weren't doing great, and trying it and weren't doing great, but we really said, hey, we're going to be laser focused on that. That's not even a discipline on our sheet anymore, things that focus. It's a non-negotiable that's a habit, like I brush my teeth.
Right.
And so there's some things that we do, like loan officer one-on-ones was one when I first implemented it. That was change. That was hard. That was like, getting used to working out for the first time or going on a mile run. But now that's just automatic. That's not even one of my hyper-focus items because it's scheduled. It happens. It's non-negotiable. We've been doing it for 2.5, 3 years, and those happen consistently. But at one point in time, that was one of my core disciplines for the quarter, like I just shared with you my 3.
Right. Yeah, and again, though that's exactly what we're trying to do. I know you're coached, I'm coached. Anything that's new, it takes time. I mean, it takes about 3-4 weeks to take something as a new discipline and turn it into a habit. Boy, once that's done, that's when it becomes powerful. And because we're all creatures of habit. You know that, I know that, everybody listening knows that. Everything you do, everything I do is based on habit. So it's just a matter of like, it takes some time, it takes some effort, it takes some discipline, accountability in order to make some changes. But boy, once you get 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks into a new discipline and it becomes a habit, that's when that's when everything changes, right?
Well said.
Yeah. Well, Jay, hey, I do want to let you go, brother. Thank you very much for being with me today and sharing. That was some tremendous insights today.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate the time, and look forward to talking with you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay.
All right, brother.